Welcome back, dead listeners. So, all right, I actually got a few questions from some other people that were curious about some of the things that I have to deal with. So, I'm not going to name any names. I'm just going to read the questions, and then I'll answer them. All right? So, first question is, when my grandmother died, I was told that we needed to hurry as quick as we can to finish the cremation process because she was decomposing. My question is, if you guys put them in a freezer, doesn't that give us more time, and why the rush? I see what you're saying. So, grandma dies, right? We're going to put grandma with some curly hair here. We're going to call Grandma Gail, right? Gail passes away. I'm sorry, Gail. And she is going to be put actually in a cooler, not a freezer. So she's going to be a little bit cool. We're not going to say she stinks, but this is chilling fog right here. Woohoo! Grandma Gail is cool. The reason they're put in a cooler is because health standards require it for a human body, any dead body, really. But understand that they are in a cooler, not a freezer. We're not to freeze the body. We are to cool it. So, in doing that, and that being said, the decomposition process, most places call it decomp, is slowed down. It does not stop completely. So, grandma will still continue to decompose. Yeah. And it can't be pretty if she's in there for longer than a month. It's going to start looking pretty rank. And overall, it's just not a very decent way to treat a human body after they've passed away. You don't want that kind of lack of dignity for somebody, but I mean, if you don't care, then by all means, drag your feet. But that's the reason. Decomposition does not stop completely. Funeral homes and care centers do not freeze the person. I guess I should have wrote freeze first. We don't freeze the person. They're just cooled down. Good question, though. My question number 2 that I received is about autopsies. This person asked, I wanted an autopsy and was told that we didn't need one. I felt that there was an issue with malpractice, and I don't understand how come some places perform autopsies and some don't. Who decides? Okay, good question. Since grandma's already in the cooler, we'll make another person. We'll call him Autopsy Andy, right? Now, as far as I know, and I'm just speculating because I don't have all the answers on that particular question, but from what I've seen, if Andy were to die at home, alone, with nobody around, and nobody knows why he died, or how he died, or what killed him, well, the state medical examiners will likely need to step in and then do an autopsy. Autopsy isn't just cutting the body open, pulling it apart. And by the way, just in case you don't know, autopsies are performed, obviously we are all experts, with a Y cut. But did you know that if they did a post for the brain, they also cut off the top of the head and examine that? Not a pretty sight. So if you are a family who has lost a loved one and they have had an autopsy, beware that there are some things that are going to have to be prepared if you want to do a viewing, because it's not pretty. Autopsy Andy not only has to have his body cut open and body examined, but they also take toxicology. Did I spell that right? I hope so. Toxicology, bad thing about that, is usually those tests have to be sent across the country. Hopefully you live in a place nearby where they are tested, and results can take up to 12 weeks to return. So if that's the case, and they don't know what the cause of death is, you may not see a cause of death for up to 12 to 13 weeks. I know that looks like a 7, sorry. Just understand that there is a lot involved with an autopsy. Now, why can't you have an autopsy if you just want one? Well, because it's expensive. Primarily, it costs thousands of dollars for an autopsy. Here, where we live, it's in the thousands. You would have to hire your own doctor if you were to do an autopsy on your loved one without the medical examiners wanting to do it. If the medical examiners don't deem their death unknown or suspicious, it's up to the family to pay for an autopsy. You would have to hire a private doctor to do the autopsy, and even then, you would also have to pay for their time and a place for them to perform the autopsy. They can't just do it in their office. So understand, here where I'm from, private autopsy starts, here's that pen again. You know what? I'm just going to throw that one away. Private autopsy starts at $3,000. Can go up to $9,000. Here's the problem. If you're willing to dish out that much money just on a hunch that there was possibly malpractice from the doctor, also remember, a lot of the doctors in this community know each other and are friends. So it's a high risk to take for that much money. But if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. But generally, it's the state medical examiner that determines whether a person should be autopsied or not. Because if the circumstances of their death is questionable, they have to find out. There has to be some way to put a cause of death on a death certificate, and an autopsy is one of the ways to do it. Most of the time, if a person dies at a hospital, they have a medical chart with medical history, they can determine a cause of death there. Hospice is much easier. Hospice is usually known that you're going to pass away months, weeks, maybe even years before you die. So once you pass away, it's no-brainer. So that's one of the reasons that I know about autopsy. If you have any other circumstances, you would have to find out exactly from your medical examiners why. My last question, I think, is my favorite. My favorite question today. Gold teeth. This person asks, when my dad passed away, I asked if I could have his gold teeth returned so that we can make a ring out of it. We were told that we would have to hire a dentist to come in and remove the gold before cremation. Is that just to make more money, or are they just being lazy? No. No. From what I understand, let's draw Dad. Since Dad has gold teeth, we're going to call Dad Gary. Gold teeth Gary, right? We're going to put a smile on Gary, and we're going to draw some gold teeth. Yeah, he's a gangster. So gold teeth Gary, you have to remember, even if he has a full grill, the number of ounces of gold that's in his mouth, I mean, it's no matter how much, if you fill your whole mouth with gold, it can't be more than a pound. So it's going to be in ounces. That's a very little amount. You also have to remember that when we cremate human bodies, the temperatures can soar up to 3,000 degrees. What that does to a human body is it obviously evaporates the fluids. Most of the ashes you're getting back are solids of the bones and harder materials, okay? You're hardly even getting back the hair, the blood, everything else just disintegrates, to include the gold. Gold is going to melt down when the cremation process happens. And it's such a small amount of fluid, it would be near impossible to pick that out of the ashes. And if there was any left, it will likely evaporate. So with the temperature, I know I'm just burning Gary up right here, but with the number of temperatures that you're going to have a person cremated at, likely that amount of gold or any metal in their body won't survive. The only times I've seen metals survive are things that are like large, like hip replacements, screws, large plates, knee replacements, joints, things like that. And most of the time, it's titanium. Pacemakers, any battery-operated devices are always removed because they can explode or combust in the cremation machine. Yeah, you just won't have enough that will survive that. And if our technicians at the crematory knew how to remove that stuff from a person's mouth, they would probably be dentists making 5 times the amount of money they're making at a crematory. They are not dentists. They don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to do that process aside from getting pliers from the garage and pulling your dad's teeth out, which I don't know about you, but sounds pretty disrespectful to the dead. A lot of people don't have the heart to do that to somebody's loved one in a crematory. I wouldn't. Maybe somebody would, but even then, I don't think it's a legal process regardless. So, decomposition, autopsy, and gold teeth. Those are my questions today. Thanks you guys for asking. And if you think of anything else, feel free to email me, ask, and I'll see what I can do to answer them. Just remember, all these processes are what applies to me, here where I am, in my state and my county. Other places might be different. If Gary were to die in the backwoods of Louisiana, and your cousin Vinny decides to get the pliers and pull them suckers out, and we'll just melt them down ourselves, well, nobody's going to know the difference. But here where I live, that's not a thing. All right, guys. Ask me any other questions. I'm happy to answer them. In the meantime, live your life to the fullest.